Hey team, it is estimated that somewhere between 40 and 90% of businesses actually listed for sale never actually sell. In this video, we're going to unpack the 5 reasons why that is, and also how to leverage those things and be able to identify them and leverage them in order to get a deal done if it's the right opportunity for you. My name is Walker Deibel. I am the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Buy Then Build, creator of the Acquisition Lab. Okay, so listen. I was in a, I broker deals sometimes, right? Like I've been inside, about 100 transactions, a lot of them my own, a lot of other people's, all the rest of it, sell side, buy side, all of it. And the thing is, I was talking with a seller over the course of the last month, and she keeps wanting to know, like, when are you taking me out? When is the sim going to drop? Like, when are we going to market? And I just keep saying to her, there's a lot of work to do. And then the minute that we are in a certain point in time, it's all going to come together extremely fast, okay? Yesterday, we had spent about 3-4 weeks compiling P&Ls and, client interviews and, industry research and, the executive summary and all the rest of it. And I'm like, hey, we could probably launch as early as Monday next week. And she was like, whoa, like all of a sudden, it was, again, all of a sudden. Why would I, why as a broker was I not, telling her when we were going to go to market? And that's because, I think that the number one biggest reason is, what I'll just sort of call lack of preparedness, right? I think that, when business brokers don't take the time and business owners don't take the time to actually put together a comprehensive sim that allows transparency into the business, the operations, the risks. Look at the risks because they're going to find them later, right? These are the things where, like so often, we have buyers in Acquisition Lab that will actually go out and get a business to acquire. They'll look at the sim, they'll look at the, executive summary, and they'll look in the package, and there's no financials for like last year, right? So it'll be like, here's 2021, here's 2022, 2023 is missing, here's 2024 year to date. And here's like an asking price or something. That's like saying, here, make an offer on this house, but like you can't see the living room or the dining room. It's like, what? So it's like, take the time, right, guys, to prepare your packages and give insight. And Mark Doust at Quiet Light actually did internal research for our team to figure out like what's the correlation between, what's the sort of rubric for measuring the best sims versus the worst sims, and then what's the correlation between purchase price and the market. And correlation is very real in this, right? And so Axial just released some information this morning, and I thought it was interesting. It's sort of like asking M&A advisors, like, hey, where do you spend your time, when you're sort of like taking on a client and going to market with a deal? And, look, I mean, 55% of this, okay, is basically at the beginning of the deal and during the due diligence period between once they're under LOI. So you can just draw a line right down the middle. They're spending, well, actually more. They're spending 55% of their time after they find the buyer. Okay. Now the thing is that 16% of their time was spent on building the sim. Okay, and I just go back to, what's that quote by Abraham Lincoln? That's something like, give me 4 hours to cut down a cherry tree, and I'm going to spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe. I believe that one of the reasons, okay, look, I love business brokers. I'm one of them, like, they're great. But the point is there's big variance. It's a completely unregulated market, okay? And I believe that the number one reason why so many businesses at market fail to sell is because brokers do a really bad job a lot of the time, okay, preparing the sim, because it doesn't convey the information, the opportunity, the risks of buying a small business in a way that buyers can quickly, get their brain around, right? And so want to bring this. So lack of preparedness is sort of number one. All right, number two. I'm going to call overvaluation. All right, and valuation is a little tricky. And when is a business overvalued or not overvalued, right? Like in a way, there's a hard way to tell when a business is overvalued. But the thing is it's all relative, right? And that's how we think about it. In other words, there's no absolute terms where a business is overvalued, okay? I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. Of course there is. Like, it's got to be able to cash flow, you know, like the historical earnings need to be able to cash flow, or the projected earnings need to be able to cash flow. But, you know, all you need to do is look at startup valuations, and you start to realize that there's different ways to value businesses, right? So, you know, the point here is that, you know, this is a bell curve, your standard bell curve, and you're sort of like the average purchase price of a business in that industry of that size with all of the average kind of characteristics, okay? And what happens is that, you know, there's always standard deviations to purchase price. And so there's a value range that's always at play when looking at anything for sale, right? And in businesses, it tends to be pretty big, okay? And this could be, you know, a 2x, and this could be, you know, a 4.5x, okay? And both of these numbers are true and accurate, and the data is opaque because we don't know, you know, did this one include, you know, large amounts of inventory and real estate or not? You know, there's all this kind of questions that you can ask. But the point is all sellers will look at this and say, hey, I want that number. I heard this number at the country club, and my buddy sold his business for this 4.5 times. That's what I want. But their business might be, you know, slightly below average by all other variables, okay? And it's a thin market, right? At the same time, and not to continue to bash brokers, but the thing is that, look, if you had a house, all right, and you wanted to sell your house, and the first real estate agent came in and said, listen, I sell all kinds of homes in this neighborhood, and like, I can sell this house for a 2x, no problem. And the second guy came in and said, listen, I can sell all kinds of houses in this neighborhood, and I can sell it for 4.5 times, no problem. Which one do you pick? It's not hard to know, okay? And so even though this house in this example is sort of priced at, I don't know what that is, 2.9 or something, you know, a 2.9x would hit, you know, 50% of the buyers to be interested in this business. They're going to go out to market at 4.5. So it's relative to everything else in there, and it's relative to all the other opportunities that buyers have. And at the end of the day, each one of these businesses is very custom made, okay? And it's really hard to tell, you know, if a business is overvalued. Whenever I see a high price, I always think to myself, okay, either the seller needs a number to retire that's completely unattached to the actual financial performance of the business. The broker did a bad job recruiting the seller and is going to have them at market and wear them down over time, which is what they do. Or this is a great business and it has all of the things that everyone wants in it, and I need to recognize that this is a great business and be prepared to pay a lot for it, okay? The single most experienced traditional search fund investors tell all of their search funders, go find the single best business you can buy and be prepared to pay a lot for it, okay? So just because a business has a high asking price on it or a high purchase price on it doesn't mean someone made a mistake or it's overvalued. It's just that, you know, we're talking about why do businesses at market not sell? And this would be why. It would be the sort of gap between, you know, where that business would fall and, you know, where it's sort of listed. Okay, so lack of preparedness, overvaluation, you know, poor financials is going to be the next one. It's just like, I'm gonna give you an example of the opposite. The first company that I owned was a book printing company, and I paid like $12,000–$15,000 every single year to my CPA firm to get reviewed financial statements because I always wanted to be prepared to sell my company, right? And what I want to tell you is that our internal books were so clean, no one even asked to see the reviewed statements when we went to sell because they didn't care, okay? But the opposite is also true. A lot of these people have really bad books. A lot of them will keep, you know, their P&Ls in Excel. You know, like, you know, at the lab, we had a couple of guys in the last quarter who, you know, the sellers are claiming that there's all this cash that comes in on the side that they don't report, all these kinds of things. Pro tip, don't pay for that. You know, one of these things. So, you know, poor financials or even, you know, unprofitable or even volatile financial performance. Because when you're in the small business category, okay, there's just natural volatility. There's natural sort of customer concentration. There's, you know, all of these kind of things that make, you know, that can lead to some shaky financial performance or even more likely shaky financial reporting, okay? Next is going to be like niche or risky industries, okay? So back to my broker hat. So we just closed on a coffee business and they sell coffee paraphernalia. I've sold this business before, actually. This time I took it out for the original buyer to sell it again. And the thing is that I love coffee. You know, I drink coffee every day. I'm either drinking water, coffee, or wine, just saying. And so the point is like everyone loves coffee. Like, you know, 70% of the world drinks, you know, 18 cups of coffee every day. It's a popular segment. People like it. It was a really high-end, you know, coffee paraphernalia business. I knew that it was going to be that sort of like, you know, blockbuster movie at the theater that like sells all the tickets. I knew it was going to be a popular listing. And so in those instances, it's not uncommon for, you know, businesses to sell for a little bit more because it just gets a lot of attention, right? So it might be, say, average performance, but still sell for a little bit more in that case, just because of its popularity, okay? To the buyer of that business, if you're watching this video, don't worry, that's not you. It's a great business. I know that business. But the point is the opposite is also true. Like, so I'll be talking with a potential seller, and you know, I'm looking at what they have, okay? And just to think of an example, there was a LinkedIn software that directly went against the rules of LinkedIn, you know, like when you sign the arrangement, the agreements or whatever, and it's doing things around that you're not supposed to do, according to LinkedIn. But the problem is that the entire industry does it. And there's multiple companies, you know, 7-figure companies that are doing that. It's just that it's against, you know, LinkedIn's terms of service. So I was talking to him, I'm like, look, you know, like this is a risky business in that LinkedIn could choose to shut it down in like a moment's notice. So even though you are getting above average, you know, performance, just based on the riskiness of this, if anyone's going to buy it, it's going to be sort of down here just to compensate for the risk, okay? I can probably sell it for maybe a 2x on the high end, but like this, you need to understand, this is not going to be popular market because like, you know, obviously we need to disclose on the first page, you know, LinkedIn can shut this down in a moment's notice. And how many people, you know, want to sign up for a personal guarantee of 90% of a purchase price on a business where LinkedIn could just, you know, some junior employee at LinkedIn could just flip a switch and shut it down? Nobody, right? Lack of preparedness, overvaluation, poor financials, niche or risky industries. And the last one is really just, you know, it's kind of macro or micro conditions is what I'm going to call it, right? So macro in terms of, when I was under, when I was under LOI with a number of companies, when when COVID hit, and the banks, you know, tied up and shut down and operations shut down and all the rest of it, nothing closed, right? Nothing at all closed. I'm exaggerating because now in retrospect, a few of those deals made it through the shutdown and you know, ended up closing to the people that they were in. But like, you know, that was an anomaly, right? So, you know, sort of external, you know, someone becomes president, you know, like the market goes like this, Russia invades whoever, like this is, whatever, like, you know, bombs go off somewhere, like the market gets impacted, right? A bubble bursts, right? You know, deals don't close. That's macro. Micro would be more like, look, if you're ever under LOI with a company, okay, and you're sitting there and you're looking at it, and let's just say that it's 90 days between when you're under LOI and when you're going to close, okay? And the business was doing great before you got under LOI, but then all of a sudden, there's sort of like soft financial performance while you're under LOI, okay? Look, there's normal business fluctuations. If it's like plus or minus 10%, even when I'm the buyer, I usually move forward because I can tell what's going on here. Like no business is up and to the right every single month forever, okay? But once you sort of step outside, like kind of like normal market fluctuations, and like something kind of happens there, or even if it is, like the buyer is, you know, more often than not a first-time buyer, let's just admit it. If it's a sub $5 million company, that's definitely true. And so what happens is they get spooked, even if there's no reason to get spooked, okay? But sometimes there is a reason to get spooked. And the whole thing is that as the buyer is the person that has none of the information about running the business for the last 20 years or whatever the seller had, right? They don't know what's happening. They can't tell exactly what's happening and what the reasons why are, right? And so if they start to feel that something, you know, bigger is happening that they can't see, or worse, that the seller's maybe not sharing all the information, that's a clear reason for it to not close, okay? And by the way, the opposite is also true, and I want you to pay attention to this when you're the buyer. when you are under LOI with a company that you're going to close on, okay, when the business just keeps tracking up month over month while you're under contract, you're going to think to yourself, boy, I can't close on this deal fast enough because as soon as I close on it, all this money is mine, right? It's true, but just know that like what happens in June or what happens in November or whatever it is has it's like holding a microscope under financial performance, right? And it doesn't have a lot of relevance to like what's going to happen in February next year or whatever, okay? And you know, something that I don't really lead with is that every single time I bought a company, so it's 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 now, 10, every single time, the first 12 months after I buy the business, the revenue is never as good as the year before I bought it, okay? And I don't think that that has anything to do, I mean, look, I'm just a guy. I'm not like some, you know, guru wizard that knows how to like, you know, turn gold out of, you know, these SMB businesses. Except maybe, you know, maybe I do. But the point is, it's like, I'm just a guy out there hustling, you know, in the Coliseum with, you know, blood on my whatever and dust wherever and making it happen, right? You got to get in there and you got to make it happen. These businesses do not operate themselves. Do not listen to social media telling you that these are passive things. These are full court press, in it every day. You know, you've got to go through your replacement ladder if you're going to work yourself out of leadership, okay? Do not outsource that on day one, okay? You've got to take it one step at a time and work your way out if that's what you want to do, okay? But even then, make sure you understand the business at every single rung, okay? These are active investments that are entrepreneur-centric, which is why, you know, we're able to take advantage of a high leverage model and get in there and make a difference for ourselves and our family and our teams and our customers and just live the most engaged life possible, have the biggest impact, and, you know, build generational wealth through small business ownership. Listen, if you are interested in buying a small business, we created the Acquisition Lab about 4 years ago, and we anchored in world-class education, okay, which I went off and taught a couple of semesters at a ranked MBA program. I hired a curriculum designer, all the rest of it. I thought the education was going to be the big part. It's not. We have a very vetted community. We are the only vetted community out there, only truly vetted community. 75% of applicants are not accepted into the Acquisition Lab. Do not let that scare you, okay? The point is that anyone who we feel can actually do this is admitted, and we want to help them. But as a result, you know, our conversion rate from membership in the lab to actually closing on a business is like 35%. It's insanely high, okay? And by the way, another 10% go off and become brokers because they know the business, they know the whole industry better than the brokers do, so they end up getting recruited. You know, vetted community. We've got 14 advisors on staff. We have advisory calls every single day. We've got a Slack channel that is alive and well with 2 other specially Slack advisors in there all the time. I run the search forum every 2 weeks. We've got all the tools, resources, you know, modeling tools, like, all, you know, we got everything you need. It's everything that I wanted when I went out and started in 2004. We'll see you on the inside.